welcome to another episode of Love in Waves. And I've taken a few weeks off, and I want to share a little bit about what happened in those few weeks because it's all a part of my awakening, my kind of spiritual development, and coming into an inner union and locking it in. And so basically, I have been studying for some time now a bit more about 12-stranded DNA and how we are in this awakening journey. We are actually accreting and collecting more and more of the codes of our DNA, the dormant or intron DNA, the junk DNA that has not been online, that is now coming online more and more. And we see this in younger generations as well. They're coming in with more active strands. And we are actually accreting more of these codes that it requires for us to come online and to raise our levels of consciousness and have a multi-dimensional experience here in the 3D world. And so it's been a really interesting study. I'm doing a lot of it's incredible study. It's really, really fun. It's not something I feel called to teach, but I certainly can lead you to where I'm finding it. But in this process, the person who I've been learning from had put out basically this it's not a workshop, it's a retreat that he facilitates. He's a psychiatrist. That's called the Heart Protocol. And I will link it down below, the Heart Protocol. And I'll also link his website down below if you're interested in any of this. It's pretty out there, but it's amazing. It's really life-changing. And so I was very, very called to do this Heart Protocol because it's a really, it's a I'll let you look into it, but basically it's a journey. It's an inward journey, a deep inward journey, meeting soul. You're meeting yourself at the higher levels of soul, over soul, and beyond, depending on what your body's own frequencies can handle, and accessing that type of frequency, that high level of frequency. When we let down the ego, we open the heart and allow for these frequencies to flow in. And so it was an absolutely incredible experience. I had done this just a couple of weeks ago. I just finished a 2-week integration period. I also went and visited my father on the other side of the States. And I'm now coming back online. Have really let a lot sink in. I mean, just life-changing, incredible experience. And I wanted to just come back here today and let you know that I have had so many visions and so many downloads since this, and I will continue to be sharing and just expressing a little bit more about what it means to come into this inner union. And so what I want to share today, just a little bit briefly, and then I'll do some more as I get moving forward here and doing a couple of things a week, is I want to share a little bit about what this energy feels like to be in this space. Because when we live in the lower levels of consciousness, we live in separation consciousness. In all reality, we come into this world, into this 3D reality as a soul stream. We come into this reality with all kinds of core wounding that is ancestral, that was basically kind of came with us to have this experience as a soul stream in order to find our way back home, to reintegrate these lost parts of us, to heal these wounds, and to move into this multidimensionality. And there's things that have happened that have kept us from being able to do this very naturally. Unfortunately, there's been some messing around with us from, other races, other, beings, other, disembodied beings that have corrupt even our world and people here in the 3D. I won't go into that. You can learn more about that. But in general, we come here to heal and find our way home, a journey home. And home is what? It's this multidimensionality, this center point, this inner union. It's called Heros Gamos. It is this sacred marriage of the masculine feminine principles within you. And what this also means is duality is collapsed. That's funny. It's collapsed. So our perception of duality becomes integrated in such a way that we can be in the world of duality, see it, experience it, navigate it without being affected by it, because our own ability, our own mastery of self allows us to come into this center point, into this Zen spot, this sweet spot of a perfect balance. And what does that mean? It means that we have been able to master our thoughts and our feelings and be able to allow. And so my last message, I talked about awakening, and I talked about bypassing the mind and just going into states of Zen and Satori and leaving the body and the mind in order to find that center point, that Zen spot, versus embodying. So embodying soul is to come into the body, is almost inscension before ascension. It's like an in-breath into the out-breath. This inscension would be to then embody soul into the consciousness, into the conscious mind, into the awakened mind, into the body, into the cells of the body, and to master our way of facilitating ourselves as a body, mind, and spirit in this reality, and also having access now to multidimensionality, because we now become an instrument of the soul. So what it is that we're mastering is our perception. So again, when you look at the scale of consciousness, which I don't have in front of me right now, it's in my drawer. I will keep it there for now. When you look at the scale of consciousness, the lower levels of consciousness, the perception is much, much higher in terms of your attraction and aversion. So what's happening from an energetic standpoint is simply we have a main way that we respond to the world when we are not able to self-regulate. So we experience something in the world, it triggers us, and we lose our regulation. We feel this emotional charge or a trigger, and we want to do something with that. And in general, we'll have one of two ways that we naturally go to deal with this. We will either, well, actually, it depends on the situation, but we'll have more of a tendency, you'll see in certain situations, to either move towards something in order to control the feelings that we're having and regulate, or we run away from it and avoid it to control, to self-regulate. So attraction and aversion are ways to self-regulate when we're triggered. Okay. And these are the energetic ways that we lean into something or we move away from something. This is just the pure energetics of things. When it comes to the mind and the emotions, that's when we actually look at what's being triggered, what's being felt. And so as we work with what are we feeling, can we let this move through us and then move through the thoughts behind it after we've released the feelings. I teach this on every other video. Okay. Get through the feelings, where that is in the body, letting them move, letting them express and emote, energy and motion, let it move out because it wasn't processed before. Then you go to the mind and you can inquire, what's the revelation here? Is there something that I'm supposed to learn here? How can love see this? How can I transmute this false way of seeing this that my emotions dictated was false because it's not as source sees it, or I wouldn't have contracted, that contracting feeling, that dysregulating feeling. So you can use that mental and emotional. This is your emotional, by the way, is your dimension 2. Your mental is your dimension 3. Dimension 1 is the subconscious mind. It's the subconscious. It's the body. The body is the subconscious mind. You came into this physical body, like I mentioned before, in order to process out old wounds of the soul from the ancestral, from karma, things like that. This needs to be worked out. So on that energetic level, you're recognizing that you have this tendency to attract or avert in every situation. This is the positive and the negative also. If you're attracting to something, you're leaning into something, it's one polarity. And if you're moving away from it, it's another. It's a push and a pull. It's another sense of duality. And so as you look at the scale of consciousness, the lower you are on that scale of consciousness, the lower amount of awareness that you have, the bigger the pendulum swing of the attraction and the aversion, your highs and your lows. And the more dysregulation you're going to feel, the more emotionality that you'll feel, and the more mental dis-ease, okay? Dis-ease of the mind that you will feel. Anxiety, depression, and a whole host of other things. And all of this and the emotions that we're not able to process get trapped in the body. These cause a lot of problems, clearly. So it gets to a point of critical mass where suddenly you are catalyzed into awakening in some way. Whether it, again, I've talked about this as well. It could be an accident. It could be an illness or a diagnosis. It could be a loss in the family or somebody close to you. It could be a relationship breakup. It could be meeting somebody who is really just triggering the heck out of you. You know, different scenarios there in relationship. It could be the work that you're doing or just feeling this lack of meaning and this just absolute grind that is you just know that you're at wit's end and something has to change, something has to give. Whatever that catalyst is, you have these things to work with now. You can think about, how am I energetically dealing with this situation? Am I moving towards it? Am I grabbing hold of it to control my dysregulation? Am I running away from it to control my dysregulation? What is it that I'm feeling? Can I first allow the feeling? And then what is that feeling coming from? So you can alchemize that. And slowly you start to move up this consciousness scale, actually slowly and sometimes quickly. You start to move up the scale and feel a little bit less of a pendulum swing and a little bit less. I say swing, it's not really back and forth, it's actually spirals. You're moving from the positive negative spiral up and up and up and up. I have video on that as well. I don't have the names of these. You have to just go through and binge. Make sure you subscribe, by the way, if you like this content. But I'm wanting to share this with you now because this is a time that this is happening more and more. We have moved into a time and an age, as we're moving into the new golden age. We're at the very, very precipice beginning of that new age. We're moving up into these higher frequencies. We're back onto this journey back home to source, back home to soul, to oversoul, to these different layers, these different subharmonics and these harmonic universes within us, right? This multidimensionality. We are moving our way through this as we accrete more of our DNA, we come more online, more consciousness, and our whole bodies are changing and alchemizing as well into lighter and lighter, more crystalline based. And all of these things are coming up to be cleared, and we are reintegrating the parts of us that we had fragmented out on the out breath when we were in creating, really more in the masculine way, and extending ourselves out and creating and creating and creating. And now, while we're still creating, we are coming back in and reintegrating the parts of us that we have denied. And as we do that, we are collapsing our own duality into the fifth dimensional space of no time and space. It's a neutral point, it's a 0 point, it's a sweet spot of where everything that you have wanted is being held for you. Everything you've been able to create as a desire or an aversion, all your attractions and aversions have been created for you in a parallel world, in a parallel universe, in the sixth dimension, but they're all being held in the fifth dimension. So it's all actually there. And we're moving into that space now. We have more and more access to that as we master these emotions and come into this 0 point of an inner union. And that inner union feels like acceptance. At first, you come to a level of neutrality and less of this back and forth attraction and aversion, allowing things to be, and more into accepting what is, not just allowing it and being neutral, but actually coming to accept that everything is just fine as it is. I don't have to give it my position. I don't need to judge this. I don't need to look at it and have it be a certain way. It's coming into acceptance of the moment as it is, without judgment, preferences, or any expectations or any control whatsoever, in order to self-regulate. And this brings you into a self-regulation and a center point of peace and balance. And that grows into love, because then you can start to see things with the reverence and the higher perspective, even still, of being able to see everything from a connectedness, from a perfection level, that even though there are things that you would not choose for yourself or anybody you love to experience, you still see from the higher level that collectively everything is playing out in a perfect balance. It's the same balance that we're creating within us that also is happening on a collective larger scale. And then, of course, even more, even on a higher scale cosmically, because all of these things play out. It's all one thing. It's all one thing on different levels. It just comes down into us. And then now we're on our way back. And it's really, really amazing. And this journey, this heart protocol journey that I went on, helped me to see this and know this from an absolute experiential, visceral, life-changing perspective. Even though I had been doing all this work and getting there and getting there and getting there, there was this last little piece of the deepest knowing from the highest level I could reach. And trust me, I went far. I went deep in. Really, really deep. And it was so beautiful and so magnificent and so real and such a gnosis that I've really been in the last 2 weeks, especially in the last few days, such a deep reverence for everything and for the wholeness and the allness of everything that I literally just break out in tears. kind of regularly. It's a very beautiful space. I'm sure it will pass as it continues to lock in. But it's almost overwhelming to see yourself in the eyes of the sweet little dog that's coming by and looks at you, and you recognize the consciousness of that little dog in those eyes. That is you. You start to connect to the oneness of everything to that level. And it's really it's quite beautiful and amazing. And it locks in that sense of acceptance, love, and peace, and really a reverence for everything that's happening, even when it's not what I would choose again as an experience. But I don't judge it. I don't judge it. I don't have a position about it. I accept it for what it is. And then I even can see it from the eyes of love and see that this is the whole that is now coming back into this in-breath and this wholeness altogether. And so I know it's a little cosmic, but it's what I wanted to share here on my way back in, landing back in. And then to wrap this up, I just wanted to also announce that my daughter is going to be editing my videos for me and posting them so that I can create more content and not have time be a restraint for me, which is why they haven't been as regular outside of this little sabbatical that I took here late summer. So I appreciate your patience in that. And then lastly, of course, the work that I'm doing. So you can definitely check in the box below, or you can go to about my website. What I do is I actually help to alchemize a lot of these energies and these beliefs and the things that keep us in this separation consciousness, the different things around the mind and the emotions that are intertwined in these belief systems and these wounds. I say wounds, core wounds and things, but also these unprocessed emotions that get trapped in the body, in the etheric body, and certainly really affecting our perception. And it's our perception that creates that duality in how we see the world, that creates the dysregulation and the swings from, attraction and aversion. And so helping with that is a big part of what I do. So if you're interested in learning a bit about that, and maybe grabbing a 15 minutes, if you're interested in working with me to, get some clarity about that for you and how that might look, happy to do that with you. And until the next video, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, and that this inspires you to take another step forward into your awakening and into your multidimensionality. It's just the place to be. I promise you, especially in a world that is in this period of disintegration. Everything that's unlike how Source is seeing things right now collectively is also falling away as new life is coming in, and this new earth is being birthed now. And I invite you to be a part of that and to not let it knock you off your rocker too far, because we can really do a lot in a short period of time to get you in that alignment and enjoying life even through some of these rougher times, and being of service to others in that process. Okay, thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video.